Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the JimFear Podcast. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I do appreciate y'all giving me a chance to vent or talk to friends and guests and whatnot. So this one is a re-record. The one that I did last night was just fucking terrible. It was all over the goddamn place. I'm very tired. I was drinking and I hadn't eaten in a while, so needless to say, I had a big hangover today. But it's cool. I'm still tired, but I'm ready to go for the most part, at least. So how are y'all doing? It's been a while since we sat here and had one of these little informal rambling talks here. I hope that you all are doing well. I'm doing pretty good. I finally got signed up to do audiobooks for actual money. So that's going to be cool. But, because of professionalism, I'm going to have to actually go under my real name, which, that'll be fun. But, whatever, I'm not too worried about it. I'll just, I'll promo the shit on YouTube so you guys can go and check it out if you feel so inclined. Now, it's probably not going to go up for another month or so. And it will be on Audible and Amazon, so you'll be able to get, top quality audiobooks without all of the tricks that I use on YouTube, like background music and rain and record fuzz and static hiss and shit like that. And also, another thing that you'll notice is that little buzz that you used to be able to hear in my videos is gone now. I'm recording without my fan on anymore, because I've gotten a better way to get clean audio. And frankly, it was necessary with doing the audiobooks for a living. But what I done did is I went up to Lowe's and I spent $35, and I bought some lumber. Not like big lumber, just little boards about as tall as me, 1 inch by 4 inch or so. And I measured them out. I just kind of eyeballed it, and I cut them up and nailed them together into a little box frame over my computer and my microphone and my monitors and everything like that. And then I took some slats from back when my bed broke. The frame broke, so the slats were still okay. So I took the slats and I put them over on the top, and then I put blankets over the sides of everything, so it's less like reflective sounds. It helps dampen the sound and get a much warmer tone. It's really helpful when making audiobooks, but it might not be total good sound quality here, because I do have two of them open, because frankly, it's hot as fuck in the South right now, and that's only going to get worse as the summer goes on. But I'm getting really good sound quality out of it. I'm really digging this particular little setup here. Next step is probably upgrading my microphone and my other recording apparatus. I've heard, I need to do a little bit of research, but I've heard people talking about there's a certain kind of box, the audio box that you can get, and it's like got real microphone plugs, like amp plugs on the front, and one of them cords out and you can plug it right into your computer, and you just get a much better sound out of it. Now, I'm getting pretty good sound with my good old Snowball here, but anything that I can do to get better sound and kind of refine my craft is definitely where I'm trying to take this right now. If I start making decent money at this, then I'm probably going to quit my regular day job so that I can just make audiobooks all day, because that would be kind of the ideal situation. Working for other people sucks. I like the idea of being able to choose my own hours and getting royalties off of audiobooks, and paid fairly decent in non-royalty situations sounds way better than commuting 2 hours there and back for 5 days a week, and then spending around 10 hours at the job doing physical manual labor for, at this point, a pittance. So if I start to do better with the audiobooks than I'm doing with my regular job, fuck the regular job. But anyway. So that's how I've been. Everything's been going pretty chill. gonna have a long week next week because one of the people that I work with quit, and they have just now found her replacement, and she gave them like 2 weeks notice 2 weeks ago. So fun, yeah. We're gonna have to pull fucking 6 days a week, get some overtime. The overtime check is gonna be nice, but I'm not really looking forward to just having to be there for fucking 6 days a week. That's not gonna be fun. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully they'll get the new person there and it won't be as bad as all that. But anyway. You guys don't care about that shit. I do have a topic that I would like to talk about at some length for this episode of the podcast here. Because it's something that I've been a part of for going on 3 years now. And it's gaining... It used to be just like some little corner of the men's rights movement that kind of grew into its own thing and started gaining prominence and, as such, more attention. And I just want to kind of do what I can to clear the air here, because the way that the inherent nature of the thing is such that it will get a lot of negative criticism and a lot of mischaracterization and a lot of misunderstanding. And I just kind of want to set the record at least firmly crooked on several things that I see as important. So pour yourself a drink and strap in, kids, because we're about to talk about MGTOW, or men going their own way. Now, first off, what is men going their own way? Well, it's kind of a reaction to feminism, or at least that's how it started. Third wave feminism or so. It started as a reaction to that. Men were just getting a shit deal, and they just decided to not do it anymore. No marriage. Some guys even take it so far as to, like, there are guys like me who just don't want a relationship at all. But I'm a hermit anyway, so I'm kind of a special case. Like, I just naturally tend towards hermitness. The hermit lifestyle agrees with me. But this kind of cemented some dangers inherent in operating in, I guess you could call it, the modern dating scene, and the modern relationship scene. And some guys take it as far as not having any contact with women whatsoever. Now, I think those guys are taking it a little bit too far. They're just a little bit out there. But as, you know, as any group grows, it will attract... I don't really want to use the word extremists, because MGTOW in and of itself is kind of extreme on its own. But I guess you could, we'll just, for lack of a better term, we'll just call them extremists. Any group as it grows will attract extremists. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a fandom, if it's a religion, anything. So there's going to be those bad eggs that ruin the batch for everybody. Or at least appear to, if you let them. But basically what men going their own way is, it's an evolution of the marriage strike to a bunch of guys, myself included, who are not going to get married. We understand that it is an inherently criminal contract that is set up on its face to disadvantage men who enter into it. It is a bad deal for men, and it is one that we refuse to partake in at all, period. So it's not, it may have started as the marriage strike, but it's not that anymore. You know, we see all of these guys getting worked over in divorce court, and MGTOW is full of guys who have gotten worked over in divorce court. They've lost their kids. Well, of course, they lost their spouses. They've lost their houses. They've been arrested. They've been just absolutely juiced, just put through the ringer. And they kind of like organically started forming together because they were all angry about this. And then they started talking to other men about how bad of an idea marriage is. And it kind of grew from there, as men like myself, who have never been married, have now decided to never get married in the first place, especially under the just absolutely misandric laws that we have now with regards to marriage and divorce and child custody. But then a couple of people came along on the YouTube side of the MGTOW sphere, and they started to gain prominence because they were doing things that nobody had really done before. Like I say, it was kind of an outgrowth of these guys coming together and pooling their knowledge, essentially. And these guys kind of took it and ran with it like a kid with scissors. And they started doing inquiries into human nature and postulating about what kind of animal we really are. And that's what really drew me into the MGTOW thing. It's like, okay, you don't need necessarily a movement to not get married. You know, you don't need a movement for a bunch of guys who are just like, nope, not doing it. You know, it's like being a non-stamp collector, I guess, to use the famous analogy for atheism that I want to say Richard Dawkins came up with, but it might have been like Dan Dennett or Sam Harris or maybe even Hitch. But this whole inquiry into human nature really started to piss people off, because we didn't just look at ourselves and what we are as men. We looked at women and what they are. And these guys started accurately describing male and female behavior, and it just kind of developed into this thing that nobody really saw coming. It was originally like the tiny angry cousin of the men's rights movement. Now it's absolutely its own thing, and it doesn't necessarily ally with the men's rights movement anymore. There are MGTOWs out there like myself who support the men's rights movement. I even consider myself a men's rights advocate because I do men's rights advocacy a fair amount. I do believe that it is important to work within the political system that you find yourself in to try to agitate for better conditions for the group you've decided to agitate for. However, in the case of men, everything from culture to the legal system to basic human biology is stacked against us. So I don't think that the men's rights movement is going to make any great inroads into changing misandric laws, although it looks like selective service is going to be repealed, so that's kind of a victory. I'll chalk that one up as a victory, even if it did, have to basically piggyback on people's want to protect women. And, a lot of people will compare MGTOW and feminism, but MGTOW kind of goes beyond feminism. Like, feminism will look at the surface level of a situation, and they'll say, well, there's a lot of men in positions of power. There's a lot of male CEOs. There's a lot of male, specifically government power. The president's always been a man. The Senate and the House are mostly men. All of these high-ranking positions are filled by men. Therefore, men must be using their power to keep women down. And there may be some men out there that do that, but you really have to look at the macro level and ask, okay, if all of these guys are using their power for someone's benefit, who are they benefiting? And when you really look at the situation, the primary beneficiaries of men's power is women. That's the way it fucking is. Just look at the law in New York City recently. Under the anti-discrimination laws, it's now illegal at bars and restaurants to refuse to give alcohol to a pregnant woman because yay fetal alcohol syndrome, because women deserve the right to be able to cripple their children in the womb, I guess. Or just the way that divorce court is skewed, the fact that I believe 85% of child custody cases are awarded to women. Men pay upwards of 94% of alimony for the longest fucking time since the beginning of our nation here in America. We had a registry of able-bodied men that the government could say, okay, you're now our property because we've decided to go to war and we need more soldiers, so we're going to take you from your homes and put you through the ringer and put you through our boot camp, and you're going to go fight and die for us because we say so, because we're legally allowed to enslave you like that. And only when people started making hay about, well, why don't we include women in this? Isn't that part of the equal rights thing? Only now that women are in danger of being drafted, or having to sign up for the selective service, are people looking at the selective service like, hey, maybe we should stop this. which is something that a person that I have a great deal of respect for, Stardust, calls the gynocentric model of change. Negative things will continue to operate at the status quo until a great number of women stand to be harmed by it. So nobody gives a fuck about the homeless situation right now. Not enough to do anything serious about it. But I guarantee you, if, let's say 30% of the homeless people were women, there would probably be some sweeping changes going on. But they're all men at this point. Most of them are men, so who gives a fuck, right? So MGTOW saw all of this going on, and in particular, this was spearheaded by Stardust and Barbarossa, whose channel is Bar. B-A-R space B-A-R. And they started reforming MGTOW from just a bunch of angry dudes who didn't want to get married into a kind of political and social and lifestyle ideology, I guess you could say. I mean, I hesitate to use the word ideology because thanks to like lots of fucking idiots out there, ideology has a bad connotation, even though it's not inherently a bad thing. Let me just look up the definition of ideology right quick. As given by Google, ideology is defined as a system of ideas and ideals, especially one that forms the basis of economic or political theory and policy. Quote, the ideology of republicanism, unquote. So, are you a Democrat or a Republican? Congrats, you have an ideology. Are you a Christian or a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Muslim or a Jew? Congrats, you have an ideology. Are you a rationalist or a humanist or an anti-feminist or a feminist? Congratulations, you have an ideology. Ideologies are just systems of ideas and ideals. They're not inherently bad. Just because something is, quote, becoming ideological doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. Now, you will, the risk with kind of not necessarily codifying, but cementing, I guess, an ideology is that you will get people who take it too far. You will get ideologues who are dogmatic and there was another word for it. Hold on. Let me uncompromising and dogmatic. There we go. Ideologues are people who subscribe to ideologies and they are uncompromising and dogmatic about it. Now, see, me, I subscribe to the ideology of men going their own way. I think it's stupid to get married. I think that if you're a man and you get married, you're making a stupid fucking decision. I refuse to take part in gynocentric systems, as much as possible at least. I work for my benefit and no one else's. And if a woman wants to be a part of my life, she's going to have to understand that there are fucking rules and I set them. You know, no living together. You pay your way. I don't pay for you. You know, gifts are fine or whatever, but I'm not going to go work a fucking 60-hour-a-week job just to take care of you and the crotch fruit that may be the spawn of that relationship. You know, it's about men finally having respect for themselves and not being willing to get down on one knee and worship at the altar of womanhood, which does happen. A lot of guys are like that. There was a dust-up a year or so, maybe 2 years ago, in MGTOW with traditional conservatives or tradcons. People like, I want to say Aaron Clary. Now, I've plugged his podcast before. I do think that the guy has a lot of wisdom to impart to young people, and I don't fault him for his business model. You know, he's getting it. Good for him. He's doing what he wants to do. Congratulations. But he looks at people like Barbarossa and Stardust and probably me and others, and he's just like, oh, you're just doing this because you can't get laid, because you can't, you know, you can't handle a woman, or you can't get any pussy or anything like that. And it's like, dude, do you understand how gynocentric that is? You're saying that the only reason these guys would go and do this and say the things that they're saying is that women don't give them attention. They can't get female attention. So that means inherently, because you're saying this, it's obvious that you prize female attention quite a bit. So you might not necessarily put pussy on a pedestal. You know, you might not have your little vagina shrine in your house, like your little vagina statue, like some people have little Buddha statues in their houses, but you do kind of worship pussy. You know, women's approval is kind of very important to you. And to MGTOW, it's not. We don't care what women think. And now, that's not to say that we hate women or anything like that. And it's very easy to get that impression, especially when you act on kind of that gut reaction instead of actually going through the body of work and listening to the content and listening to them explain why they're saying what they're saying and what they mean by all of this. Because to a lot of people, simply describing negative female behavior like the propensity for divorce that women have, which is ubiquitous. Women are more divorce prone than men. It happens in every country where something like no-fault divorce is offered. Every single country, within a decade and a half, just about, you will see 70% of divorces are initiated by women, and the divorce rate will skyrocket. It's fucking insane. I believe the YouTube user Coltane did a good series on this. I think it's up on Teal Deer's channel, but he brings in the divorce stuff, and he puts a lot of statistics together, and he puts just about as scientific a model on that as you can get. But it happens in China, it happens in Indonesia, it happens in the UK, it happens in the United States, Canada. All of these countries, as soon as you get no-fault divorce or something like it, women start divorcing. And people will blame it on feminism. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that didn't have an effect on it, but feminism didn't hold a gun to these women's heads and make them divorce their husbands. They did that of their own free will. So is there something inherent in women that leads them to divorce more often than men? That's a question that you will never hear feminists ask. That's a question that you won't hear many MRAs or anti-feminists ask. You know, these guys came out here and they started asking hard questions and they started putting pieces together and looking for the data. And they get maligned a lot because, you know, well, we can't prove any of this necessarily. We can just show you the evidence that we have and you can make up your own mind. But getting this studied in a lab setting or a university setting is fucking impossible. It's never going to happen, especially with the iron death grip that feminist ideology has over the universities nowadays. So, the whole misogyny thing, I'm not going to say that it's not there. There are misogynists in MGTOW, and I know a few, and I'm not happy about it. You know, and it's not the guy, like, there's a phenomenon in MGTOW, because when you start explaining all of this to men, and you start explaining the nature of the human male-female pair bond to people, and you dig into this and you get the answers, and they are not the answers you're looking for, you tend to get very angry. And women are kind of an easy target for that anger. They're just a convenient displacement of feelings of anger for a lot of these men. And eventually they get over it. I can personally attest to that. You know, I didn't treat women like shit during the phase that I was angry. It was a good, 6 months, where I was just very angry about all of this stuff and you know, having to readjust my entire mindset to take into account the fact that Santa Claus isn't real. But everybody in society that I look at is saying Santa Claus is real. You know, you kind of got angry at Santa Claus. But it's called, and I hate the Matrix metaphors because they're so played out, and everybody and their fucking grandmother quotes the Matrix. And I understand why. It's a very influential film. It's a very good piece of cinematography. It's an amazing movie. But it's so fucking played out and overdone. It's like quoting 1984. But they call it red pill rage. I just call it the rage phase. But while guys are going through this rage phase, one of the things that you come to understand after looking at society honestly is that we don't want to give men time to heal. Men are expected to be the doers. We're expected to be the stoic rock upon which all society can rest, and they never have to worry about Atlas shrugging. Well, we're not Atlas. We're human fucking beings, and we deserve time to heal, to get these feelings out, to get over it, to work it out of our system. And MGTOW, so far as I've seen, is the only group, even the only group affiliated with the men's rights activists, that gives men this space. There are some guys who do take it too far, and there are psychopaths in MGTOW. There are a couple of people who talk about, like, women are cockroaches and women aren't human, and I don't support that kind of rhetoric at all. It is absolutely insane to say those kinds of things. But a lot of the guys that you see that are quote-unquote misogynists in MGTOW are just angry. They're just mad, and women are a convenient displacement. And I mean, so far as I know, I've never heard of any guy affiliated with MGTOW actually going out and hitting women or anything like that, or being violent towards women. It's a strictly non-violent philosophy. That's essentially what it is. And you would be amazed at how many people get so butthurt about men non-violently just saying no and walking away. You would be fucking amazed. But we understand that we are already going to be maligned by society at large, simply because we have chosen the path that we are taking. The choice to not get married ever and to not support women and children is very unpopular. You know, even though everybody with a fucking brain and eyes to see can look at the fucking divorce rates and how men are getting absolutely raped in divorce court with alimony payments. And, I mean, hell, I saw a fucking article today about David Hasselhoff has only like $4,000 to his name because his greedy cunt of an ex stole it all in alimony payments. You know, that's not fucking cool. That's not a good situation. And it makes sense to me that men would look at that situation and see that happen to other men and go, I'm going to take the steps necessary to make sure that that doesn't happen to me. Never, not once in my life will I ever sign an alimony check. Never. Fuck these women who think that they can get the money out of me like that. You know, it's very understandable that these guys would react like that. But the thing, like I said, the thing that really gets me interested in the whole MGTOW phenomenon is that I went into the men's rights movement and I was like, okay, you guys are doing good things. I support you. You're doing awesome things. I really do hope that you get the changes that you want to get instituted. But how long have y'all been at this? What's changed? Oh, it's only changed when women are about to be hurt by the thing that you're trying to change? Okay. No, I understand. Keep going, though. Keep going. It's a good thing that you're doing. It's noble. It's right. It's righteous. But results? And then the pickup artists are just devoting their lives to getting pussy. That's it. That's the entirety of their philosophy, is just, we're going to try to decode the female mind so that we can trick them into fucking us. And I'm not going to be nice about the PUA thing. I don't like PUAs. I don't like PUA ideology. I think that they're a bunch of scummy little fucksticks, and by their own definition, they are beta males. And I'm using their terminology because I don't buy into this beta-alpha bullshit dichotomy. But by their own definition, by their own terms, they are beta males pretending to be alpha males so that women will sleep with them. I'm sorry, guys. You're pathetic. You're abso-fucking-lutely pathetic. Yes, the fact that you went to Miami and paid Roosh V God only knows how much fucking money for a seminar on how to talk to girls at a bar, yes, you're fucking pathetic, okay? There's no other way to put that. And the PUAs don't get into shit like this either. They're just concentrated on, okay, so how can we get laid? And then Roosh has this whole neo-masculinist thing, which is basically meet the new boss, same as the old boss, which is to say that it's traditional masculinity with a neo on the front of it to make it sound cool and edgy and new wave and shit like that. And now he's like trying to turn it into some religious cult or something. Trying to lead men back into the wonderful days of the 1950s, which may have existed for a small segment of the wealthy upper middle class population. But the rest of us were kind of just fucked. You know, those halcyon days never existed, and trying to go back to something that never was is a futile endeavor, especially with birth control in the mix now. That is... The genie doesn't go back in the bottle, dude. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Birth control is here. And traditionalism died because of it. So this whole neo-masculinity thing is basically the last twitchings of a corpse that's been dead for 30 years now, as these guys try to rewire the brain and make it walk to pump out a few more extra dollars for them so that it can make their fucking mortgage, instead of getting a real job. The MRAs don't get into deep questions like that much either. Now, the honey badgers do, but the honey badgers have had more than a passing meeting with MGTOW. Karen Strawn and Allison Tiemann are some of the most respected women in MGTOW, and that right there should disprove the misogyny thing. You know, Karen Strawn comes along, and Stardust, who admits that he avoids as much contact with women as possible, will sit down with Karen Strawn and have a really awesome conversation with her for 3.5 hours. Yeah, he totally fucking hates women, right? That's another thing that people can't seem to divorce, is that indifference to women is not necessarily hatred of women. You know, I cannot care about women, and that doesn't mean that I hate them or want to see them harmed or want to take their rights away or put them barefoot back in the kitchen. I'm just indifferent. I don't care. Women can go do whatever they want to do. It doesn't have to include me, and it's probably not going to include me. And that's fine. They don't have to consider me either. And then you have the anti-feminists. And the anti-feminists, I think, are almost as sad as PUAs. And I say this with full knowledge that I was an anti-feminist for the longest fucking time, before I actually decided to just go MGTOW and stop fucking around. The anti-feminists are people like Fiedelbogen, who, if you don't know who Fiedelbogen is, don't worry about it. He was basically this guy who just wanted to redefine feminism and anti-feminism and non-feminism 100 million billion fucking times. And he would just argue with feminists all the time. That was what he was doing. He would just go on Twitter and pick fights with feminists and shit. Like the shit that you see on Tumblr. I follow a lot of anti-feminist Tumblrs, and most of what these people do is they just go into the tags and pick fights in this kind of vain hope of defeating feminism, whatever the fuck that means. It's just an internet dick measuring contest is what anti-feminism is. And you never hear these people broach serious terms and research. You never hear them getting into the core of human nature and why do feminists act like that? And are women inherently, naturally feministic? You know, is feminism congenital to women? You don't hear them get into that shit. You don't hear them get into male mother need or the male willingness to be disposable, and unless it suits their argument with somebody at that point. And then they use terms that MGTOW came up with. You know, like gynocentrism. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talking about gynocentrism if you're paying attention at all to the whole feminist, anti-feminist war that's going on right now. I'm sure that you've heard the term gynocentrism come out. This was a term coined by MGTOW. MGTOW started using it, and everybody else was looking at them like they were fucking crazy, until 2 years later when MRAs started using it, and then a year later when anti-feminists started using it. And then they have the fucking nerve to look at MGTOW and say that we're misogynists, and we're sexists, and we're horrible people, and we're Peter Pans, and Like if it wasn't for MGTOW, you wouldn't have data to go on. You wouldn't have these theories about human nature that seem so ubiquitous now, or that seem so commonplace now, if it wasn't for MGTOW going out there and asking those hard questions that you're too much of a fucking coward to ask yourself. But you'll gladly use our terminology. Funny how that works out. So the anti-feminism is just an internet dick measuring contest. That's all it is. And that's why I don't really do it that often anymore. Occasionally it's fun to get into a dust-up with a feminist, just kind of like, a couple of quick jabs. Got to keep your wit sharp. Make sure that you're still fighting tough if you ever have to get into the ring again. But I don't really like to do it because it's pointless and it's a drain on my time. Especially with the fact that I'm working at this point 3 jobs. I'm working my day job, I'm working my YouTube channel, and I'm making audiobooks for pay now. And it's not just like, oh, this guy will give me like $30 to do his audio. No, it's like a contract. I signed legal documentation. I sent these people my fucking tax information, and they followed up with the IRS. Like, it's a job. So I'm working 3 jobs. I don't have time to debate with feminists. I really don't. And besides, just looking at how futile it is. Like, oh, good. You fought feminism. Congratulations. Most people realize that feminism is batshit insane bag of squirrel chow. Why did feminism come to be? Can any of them explain that? Any of them? No, they can't. But MGTOW has some theories. Because they went there and they asked those hard questions. They got at the root of human nature and they started applying evolutionary concepts above the neck. And that is very important to me. I really like getting at the truth. I really don't like being wrong. And I really don't like not knowing something that I definitely should know. And knowing human behavior, and more particularly male and female behavior, on aggregate. Now, when I say male and female behavior, that doesn't mean, okay, I can predict what this individual man or woman is going to do based on my revealed knowledge from MGTOW. No, it's not like that. It's about looking at demographic-wide trends and propensities in behavior in men and women and reacting accordingly, asking questions as to why this situation is the way it appears to be. And we think we've got some pretty good theories. I think they're pretty good. I think they explain a hell of a lot more than anybody else does. That's just my opinion, but it's pretty explanatory. And nobody's really been able to sit there and chip away at it. But, except for those stupid faggots who are like, where's your 40 citations? And it's fledgling, dude. Not everything can be proven, especially when we don't have access to the proper facilities to run this kind of research. We just kind of have to do it with what we have. It's DIY science right now. It's democratized sciencing of the human condition. So you can either help, or you can continue to be an annoying faggot who will be ignored. And this is faggot in the sense of extremely annoying, irrelevant person who thinks they're big bad shit, but they're really not. It's not like the homophobic, you get the dick out of your mouth, faggot, or something like that. I'm bisexual. I like dick almost as much as gay guys. That shit doesn't stick on me. I'm fucking Teflon, bitch. So, MGTOW is a philosophy of male self-ownership. It is about doing what you want to do because you want to do it. Barbarossa, Barbar, good old Uncle Barbar, he has a video up called House Husbands Just Ain't Sexy. And I would recommend every man go watch that right now. Pause the podcast, go watch that video. Did you do it? Are you back? Good. Okay. Now, for those of you who didn't, in this video, he breaks down a 40-hour work week spread over, I want to say, 25 years, and he gets exactly how much free time you are losing by marrying someone and having a family and having to work all of that time to support them. It's something on the order of 130 some thousand odd hours. And in the video, he says something that was very kind of reached out and grabbed me. And it was, I'm paraphrasing it best here, but it really stuck with me, because he was like, go do what you want to do. Write a book. Read. You've got 130,000 hours to fill. Use it. Teach yourself something. Pick up this book by this famous scientist and just read it because you want to. Learn astronomy. Learn a trade. Learn how to weld. Write a book. Fuck a prostitute. Howl at the moon for all I care. You've got 130,000 hours to fill, you lucky bastard. Now go out and do whatever you want. And some of these guys have taken to decoding the human condition as best that they are able. We have the advantage of people like Barbarossa and Stardust, who are very, very well educated and very intelligent. And people like Spetsnaz, who has a background in therapy, specifically therapy for men. And even MRAs like Tom Golden and Warren Farrell. We used to have Man-Woman Myth, who made documentary-style videos and was kind of one of the progenitors of MGTOW on YouTube. And there's a channel out, Man-Woman Myth Mirror, because Man-Woman Myth took his channel down. It was just very insightful stuff. I highly recommend going and checking out the Mirror channel for Man-Woman Myth. Thank God somebody saved his videos. I mean, I think I have some of them on my computer or on my hard drive, but I'd have to go digging for it. And because of this whole, there's also the this is one of my favorite things, and I'll go ahead and I'll quote Fiedelbogen, who after he got done redefining feminism for the umpteenth besquillionth time and screen capping arguments on Twitter with feminists to put on his fucking anti-feminist blog or non-feminist blog, whatever the fuck he wants to call it. He said that the outside perception of MGTOW is a bunch of dudes on the internet bitching about bitches. And I thought that was kind of funny. But when you're getting into the human condition, you're going to have to talk about men and women and how they interact. Especially if you want to warn men about the dangers that they face in modern society and help them navigate it, which is another benefit of MGTOW. I for years had my eyes set on finding someone, settling down, marrying, and having kids. And now I look at all of this information that I have thanks to people like Barbar and Stardust and Spetsnaz and Razorblade Candy. And I'm like, holy shit, I dodged the biggest fucking bullet in the world. That path potentially could have led to my suicide. Because if I actually had gone through with that, if I had gone through with that and I had gotten a good job and found a good woman, quote unquote, and settled down, and then got my kids taken away from me in divorce, and have to pay alimony and child support and not being able to see my kids and shit like some of these guys do, I would shoot myself. I would fucking kill myself. I'm not going to be separated from my blood like that. Not if I can help it. So I'm just going to go ahead and head that off and just not have any. Just not have kids. They can't take away what you don't have. So I'm just cutting that risk off. Now, does this mean that I completely disassociate myself from women? No! I have plenty of female friends, and they're all good people. Would I date any of them? Probably not. Would I marry any of them? Absolutely hell to the fucking no. And it's not anything necessarily against any of those women. It's just, look at the system. Look at the system and how women reacted to it over the past 50 years. The laws changed and women immediately started taking advantage of it and harming men, whether intentionally or unintentionally, in the pursuit of their own bigger, better deal. I'm not going to get wrapped up in that system. It's a lot easier to just step back, go do my own thing, go make my audiobooks, go do my YouTube channel, and just be happy. Because I don't know if some of these people get this, but it is possible for men to be happy and productive and settle down without the quote-unquote benefit of having a woman in their life. You know, I don't need all of the riches. I don't need the $180,000 it's going to take to raise a kid for 18 years. I don't need it. I'm not in a position where I have to have that, and I'm not going to put myself in a position where I have to have that. You know, it's like in this is something that I wanted to get to in a minute. In a recent video, Turd-Flinging Monkey absolutely fucking eviscerated, like, double barrel to the chest, took out a video by Prager University called Be a Man, Get Married. And I'm going to do a response to this video too, because it is fucking propaganda, it is evil, and that kind of shit needs to be refuted as often as possible, in as many places as it can possibly be refuted. And I'm also going to be doing a response to the article that Brad Wilcox, who is the guy in the Be a Man, Get Married video, I don't think he necessarily works at PragerU. He's like assistant professor, adjunct professor of sociology at some university or other. But he wrote an article about TFM's response, and basically it boiled down to, you're a bunch of Arrested Development, Peter Pan syndroming woman haters. That's kind of what it boiled down to, which, yeah, I'm gonna go through that. And not to defend Turd-Flinging Monkey, because he can take care of himself. If he chooses to respond to that article, then, hey, go for it, good for him. But there's a lot of lies that are being perpetrated in that article, and a lot of bad things that are being spun as good things in that article. And I want to take it apart. I want to strip the meat from the bones. Which is why I'm doing this episode of the podcast right here, to kind of give you guys a little bit of a basic primer insight into MGTOW, so that you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from. And if you would like more information, I can direct you to some channels, like the ones that I've listed off. Spetsnaz, his video, The Disposable Male, it was very, very good, very poignant. Razorblade Candy's stuff is good. He's not around anymore. He's not doing anything anymore. I don't know why. I don't know where he fucking went. I wish he would come back. I miss that fucker. Barbarossa and his website, sheddingoftheego.com. Stardusk over at Thinking Ape is his YouTube channel, Thinking Ape. And yeah, there's a lot of great content creators in MGTOW, but just some more basics. It's apolitical, which means it's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's not liberal, it's not conservative. It's about men. Period. The end. About men. It's not about race. It's not a white thing. It's not a black thing. It's not a Hispanic thing. Right now, I can point you to people who make MGTOW-centered content that are of every fucking race. Just about. I don't really... Well, no, I am serious. Yeah, I think he lives in Indonesia. I'm not sure if he's an expat or what. But, men from all over the world are taking part in this MGTOW thing. So there's no racial bias inherent to it. We laugh at the white nationalist and the black nationalist because apparently we're some kind of Jewish conspiracy or white conspiracy to corrupt the beautiful Aryan princess or the Nubian queen or whatever and get them to marry against their race or what. I don't know. These people are fucking conspiracy theorists from hell. It's fun to point and laugh at the Storm Fags and the Black Panther people. Especially when they start going on about MGTOW like they know what they're fucking talking about. Which, given how much they know what they're talking about when they talk about anything else, is not a lot. So it's apolitical, it's aracial, for the most part it's acultural. We don't really care what culture you come from. It's areligious, does not have any kind of religious element within it. Now you can do MGTOW-centered content. Like for a while there was a guy, MGTOW Teacher. He's a Catholic, so he wanted to do Catholic MGTOW videos, and he got trolled by some atheists pretty hard, and he shut his channel down. He's kind of seems like a sensitive guy, you know, like he just didn't want to deal with it, I guess. He's back now. He's over at MGTOW Teacher 3 if you're interested. Really good, sweet guy. I'm glad he's back. I hate that he got fucking drove off by a bunch of fucking trolls. So you can take components of all of these. Like if you wanna talk about MGTOW and how it can help black men, go for it. Go for it. There are specific advantages to black men that MGTOW can help with, especially in the unique situation that their culture is going through with... Sorry about that, my cat just jumped up on my fucking audio tent. With the horrendous amounts of single motherhood that are going on in the black community and just all of the problems that stem from that. There's not a lot of father figures in a lot of the black community, and that's one of the functions of these MGTOW guys, because they tell the unvarnished fucking truth, and they're willing to dispense insight into how to take care of yourself and how to navigate society, and that can be very beneficial for a young black man who doesn't know what the fuck to do because he's been raised by a single mother his entire life. Or if you want to do religious MGTOW shit, you can apply MGTOW to, like, how can you be Catholic and be MGTOW? Does that fit into your religion? Can that fit into your religion? Or Islam or Christianity or whatever? More general, like Protestant Christianity. Because I know that, like, Catholicism is a Christianity. It's a Christianity. It's the oldest one, but it's a Christianity. So it really does just want to look at human behavior. And if you want some examples of the best that MGTOW has to offer, like I say, Barbar, Coltane, Stardust, CS MGTOW, I Am Serious. M has some really good videos. His handle is just M. That's it. He used to be an atheist YouTuber, but then he got hooked onto the MGTOW thing and started doing way better content. He just kind of likes to dick around and have fun now, but his older videos are really fucking good. Black Ram, there's some numbers after that, but Black Ram, Straight Shooter, who I'm super, like, I'm still kind of in mourning because he deleted his whole channel one day. And then he came back and started making videos again, and he didn't have any of the shit saved. I think I might have some of his older videos, but I don't know if I got around to backing up his channel. J to Black, JGG, just, like, there's a lot of really interesting thought coming out of the MGTOW community on a lot of different lines. And like I say, if you want a good website to kind of get an idea of where MGTOW is at currently, then Shedding of the Ego is a very good place to go. But yeah, so I just wanted to do this whole kind of base explanation podcast thing, kind of let you guys know where I'm coming from with some of the videos that I'm going to be making in the future, because I really do want to refute things like the PragerU propaganda video about marriage. I'm not necessarily going to get into internet slap fights with people who are sitting there just, like, talking shit about MGTOW, because honestly those people are fucking trolls and they don't deserve to be responded to. Like, I was super disappointed in Harmful Opinions because I was listening to a Teal Deer video, and it was, hang on, I can actually find it. If you haven't subscribed to Teal Deer, then what the fuck are you doing? But yeah, Teal Deer had a video, and it's TL:DR. He's got a picture of, like, a really nice picture of a deer in a road sign. Like a deer's head in a road sign. Here it is. It was Intellectual Rigor versus Ponage. And he's got a couple of videos that he talks about, you know, you're going to have to go watch these videos so you can get an idea of where I'm coming from. And one of them was Coltane, and the other was Stardust, I want to say. Let me check right quick. I can actually find out. Yeah, there's the Red Pill Then and Now by Stardust and the Manosphere by Coltane. And I was listening to Coltane's video, and he mentioned that Barbarossa had released a new video. And Barbarossa is one of, like, Firebrand, one of the most electrifying people in the Manosphere, period, and MGTOW in particular. And every time he releases a video, he just has such deep insights and thoughts on the male condition in particular, and how we should react to the world around us, in his opinion. And it's always very interesting to listen to him talk. So I heard that he had uploaded a new video, and I was like, well, fuck. Barbar's doing his website thing, and he got a new job, and he hasn't released a video in months. So, hell yeah, I'm going to go watch that. So I went and watched that. It's like 3.5 hours long. And it was awesome. But it was basically why MGTOW shouldn't worry about the same as the feminist smear. And in that video, he talks about the quote-unquote gotcha guys, as he puts it. The guys who are just looking for a cheap gotcha argument or a gotcha moment. And they're just going to go through MGTOW content and be like, aha, you can't prove this, therefore your entire ideology is faulty and flawed, and blah, 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 and here's my citations, where the fuck are yours, faggot? And the guys who like to act intellectually superior to people, they never come up with anything original on their own. They just like to tear shit down that other people have created. And I got home that day, and I pull up YouTube, and I'm like, oh, Harmful Opinions has a new video. And Harmful Opinions is someone that I have a fair amount of respect for. I lost a little bit with this one, but he's got a good channel. He's not MGTOW, he's just kind of anti-feminist, but he has a lot of interesting thoughts because he does his videos off the cuff, so he's just kind of talking, and they're very well edited, and God, the dude's got a great voice. Like, I would pay money to hear him, like, whisper sweet nothings into my ear while I go to sleep at night. But anyway, he mentioned that he had a new channel or something like that. So I went and checked it out, and the first video that he had up was, like, the misogynist's lexicon or something like that. And basically, he found the lowest hanging fruit MGTOW he could possibly find on the internet. And it's like, not even somebody who's justifiably like, okay, it's fine to attack that person because he's obviously stupid, and he's got some really crazy gendercidal wackadoo statements in his videos, like Sexy MGTOW and him saying that women aren't human, and MGTOW United talking about how women are cockroaches and shit like that, which is horrible things for them to say, and I think that they're going way too far. They need to kind of dial it the fuck back a bit and take a good, honest accounting of themselves, and think about what they're saying. Because in that instance, you do become the same as the feminists. In that instance, when you start dehumanizing women instead of accurately describing their behavior, then you become fucking dangerous. Then you become a bad person, essentially. But it wasn't even one of those guys. It was this guy who was honestly, like, you could tell that he wasn't really a deep thinker. That he didn't really plan his shit out too well. He didn't think about how other people are going to respond to it, or take into account how other people are going to react, or whether or not he sounds like a cringy fuck. And he did. Like, I think the video that Harmful responded to was something like, don't take a relationship. I don't know, I would have checked out the guy's channel if he had fucking linked it, but I guess that's out of vogue nowadays. But, yeah, and it was this, and he was putting on this voice, and his ideas were just kind of dumb, and, it was really an example of what Barbarossa, like, stark reality thrown into focus right there about what Barbarossa was talking about with these, quote-unquote gotcha guys, and I was pretty disappointed. But MGTOW is kind of starting to gain prominence and ire. It's starting to draw the ire of a lot of people. Like I said, that article that I mentioned earlier that Brad Wilcox put out came out on the fucking Federalist. You know, that's not some backwoods-ass feminist blog that's just making shit up for clicks. That's the fucking Federalist. A pretty widely respected news organization. And it's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. There's going to be a lot of people that are maligning MGTOW without really understanding it, without more than a surface level investigation into what these guys are saying and what they're doing and why they're doing it, which is exactly what Wilcox gave it. And I just kind of want to clear the air, because when I go into that video that I am going to make a not response to, a refutation of, it's going to have some pretty out there rhetoric, I guess you could say, in my response. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm coming from this place of misogyny or craziness or, oh my God, he lost his mind. What the fuck is he saying? There are good reasons. There are very good reasons. And I hope that I've elucidated some of them here. If you guys have any questions, I will answer them to the absolute best of my ability. If any of you guys are interested in kind of digging a little bit further and kind of getting into MGTOW, and you don't necessarily have to go native like I did, but just kind of look at what's going on and get a little bit deeper into it, I can give you some links to some channels and some videos that can help. And you can get it straight from the fucking horse's mouth instead of hearing it filtered through some social justice, feminist, or traditional conservative lens. And in my opinion, it's always better to get it straight from the horse's mouth instead of listening to someone who's not a part of the thing and actively has an interest in destroying the thing. Like, I didn't go to anti-feminists to figure out what feminists were saying. I went and I read feminist books, and I read feminist blogs, and I read Jessica Valenti, and I read a little bit of Bell Hooks, and Maureen Dowd, and Andrea Dworkin, and people like that. I went and found out what they were saying. And then I went and did my research into the movement that anti-feminists helped out with, because God knows those people come up with a copious fucking amount of links. But I went and I found from the source. And that's why I know feminism is a bad thing. It's not because somebody told me, it's because I went out and fucking checked. I went out and got it from feminists, straight from the horse's mouth. But anyway, we're at like an hour and 13 here. So I think that's about enough time for me to have been rambling on like this. Like I said, if you guys want to ask me any questions about this or some clarifications or links to further listening or reading on the subject, then I can try and hook you up. I will answer questions to the best of my ability. And I hope that after this, you guys will stick with me, because things are going to get pretty interesting from here on in, because I'm kind of embarrassed about falling for the bread and circus show as hard as I did with the whole political thing. I had to sit down and take a long look at myself and admit that I was scared about the prospect of Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or a Hillary Clinton presidency. And I got into the political shit because I was afraid. And it's okay to be afraid. But I had to sit down and look at myself and say, what am I agitating for politically? What do I care about politically? And first and foremost, that's men. Because nobody else cares about men. And somebody fucking has to. And the MRM is all well and good. It's nice to agitate for things that you want. Like I said, in the political system that you find yourself in. But they haven't changed much of anything in a long time. MGTOW has saved lives. There's plenty of guys that are in MGTOW right now that are alive because of MGTOW. Because they got into a situation with the divorce courts, and their ex-wife stole everything from them and took their kids, and they don't get to see their kids anymore. But they found this group of like-minded men on the internet who let them vent their pain and their hurt and let them be human fucking beings. And they didn't kill themselves because of it. And there's even more guys out there who are like me, who aren't going to get into that situation because somebody came along with a warning sign and a pamphlet explaining why they're holding the warning sign. A lot of guys' lives have been saved by MGTOW. A lot of guys have been helped by MGTOW. And that's kind of where I'm at. I want to help men as well as I can. And maybe I'm shooting my YouTube channel and shit in the foot. We've been growing pretty good for the past couple of weeks. I've been enjoying that. Glad that you guys have been showing up and leaving comments and everything like that. But I've never been one to divorce my political opinions or the things that I care about from myself. I've never been one to hide them. And frankly, if I did, this podcast would get boring quick. I wouldn't have a whole lot to talk about. So that's where I'm at. If I do any more political shit, it's going to be on how it affects men and how men can react to it, and just trying to help men. Because like I said, nobody else is going to. And to quote Man Woman Myth, the other man is you. So, but yeah. So when you see these videos coming up, guys, don't freak out. You know, I haven't gone crazy. I've been like this for a long fucking time. Still the same person I always was. I just have a different mental position, a different set of ideas and ideals than you maybe thought I did. So, I hope that this has been illuminating. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. And I will catch y'all next week. It's been fun, motherfuckers. Peace out.